Welcome to Flights, the podcast where we uncork the secrets to running a successful destination wedding and group travel business. Each episode, we will explore the good, bad, and ugly of destination weddings while sipping on the finest wines from our pantries.
As your hosts, we believe in savoring the journey with a glass of wine in hand. Join us, Mario Lopez and Ashley Morris of Destination Wedding University, as we explore all of the adventures and misadventures that we experience in this crazy industry.
All right, welcome to episode 4 of Flights. We are so excited today. We have got Amanda Shuman with us from Carrylove Designs, and we're going to be talking about all things branding and travel today. So I'm super excited about this. This is, as anyone who's listened to our previous episodes know, both Ashley and I come from an advertising background. And so there's going to be, I'm sure, poor Amanda, that we're just going to be coming with like speed round questions for you. So it's so there's going to be a lot to it, but I'm very excited to have you here. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk with other people that have a marketing background and see what kind of questions you might stump me. Maybe I'm a little nervous.
No, you already know how I am because we work together. So I feel like if we survive that, then this will be easy.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
So speaking of that, I should explain how we met. I actually hired you to redesign my alpaca website. Is that last year or two? When did we start working on that? It's been almost 2 years, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
It's been a minute, but I found you and Carrylove because I knew I wanted to switch from a different website platform to Show It. And I had searched I looked at the Show It website and looking for like Show It approved designers. And I think I looked at every single one that was there, of which there are hundreds, narrowed them down to a few, had a few phone calls, and you were the winner. So we ended up working together on my site.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't think I've ever actually heard like the back.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
That's how I did it. I was kind of looking for that combination of obviously design experience, which you have in spades, but you were one of the only people that actually talked about results, like in your proposal and in your thing. It's not just about making a pretty website. It's a pretty website that works for you and you actually get results from. So that's what brought you to the top of the list. But tell everyone your story. What is your background and how did you get to this place where you are today?
Yeah. So I actually, this journey started with a magazine. Actually, I watched 13 going on 30 and I wanted to be the next Jenna Rank. I was like, I'm going to New York. I'm going to work at a big magazine company. Like it just is what it is. So I went to college for graphic design. And along the way, I had a branding class where we took what we thought was a terrible brand and we had to rebrand it. So it was like a really existing company. And I fell in love with branding. And I was like, I love this. Like, this is what I want to do. And so I started freelancing from there on the side. Ended up getting recruited. I was on the Shell Oil, their creative marketing team out of college.
Oh, fun.
And I was like, their brand guidelines were so strict that I was like, a monkey could do this. It was so boring. I was like, this is not what I went to school to do. Like, I want to be creative. So I ended up leaving that job. A whole bunch of life happened in between, got married, had kids, ended up at a real estate firm. Absolutely hated my job at the real estate. I just realized I'm not built for corporate. I ended up getting fired from that job.
I love the honesty. You're just like, listen, this is what happened.
Yeah. I ended up getting fired from that job. And so I told my husband, I was like, just give me 6 months. Like 6 months, if I can, I went into this, very optimistic. I was like, if I can replace my like salary in 6 months, like what I was making, I was like, then like, this is what I want to do. Please don't make me go back to another corporate job, basically. And so that really motivated me. So within 6 months, I was making what I was making at my corporate job, at least monthly. And so I never looked back and I hopefully will never have to.
That is great. Like, that's amazing how that came together.
Yes, it really is. I ended up one of the first websites. I don't know if y'all know who Lamiga Events, Michelle Gainey from Lamiga Events. She's a big wedding and event planner in the Atlanta area. And she ended up having to be one of my first like clients. And I don't even know if I've ever actually told her this, but she was great with referrals afterwards.
Oh, nice.
And so she sent a lot of business my way and really was a catapult for going down the wedding industry route many, many moons ago.
So before we have a bunch of questions about that, but I want to go back to something you said at the beginning. Do you remember what was your rebrand on your college project? What was the brand that you had to redo?
So we got to choose it ourselves. I did. It's Barton Springs Soda Company.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was actually out of Austin. I don't think they're actually in business anymore. And funny story, I had tagged them on Twitter with, or X, whatever they're calling it nowadays. Back then it was Twitter. I had tagged them and I was like, oh, look at this rebrand. They actually had direct messaged me and was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, let's chat. But nothing ended up coming about, from it. But maybe they still would be in business if they would have rebranded with us.
Yeah, maybe they should have rebranded.
Right?
It's funny, something you said about this, how you got into the industry, and Ashley, you have to let us know if you're the same. I also got into advertising from TV. That's Brian Kinney from Queer as Folk was like, it's his life was what all I wanted. So I saw that and I was like, advertising, that's it. That's what I'm doing. That's
Yeah. See, that's not how so my degree's in journalism, and at Mizzou, you have like different tracks. You can either be like editorial, which means you have to work at the Missourian, which is the Columbia newspaper, or if you're broadcast, which is actually what I wanted to be, you have to work at KOMU. And I paid for all of my own college, like scholarships, paying for everything. And I couldn't, if you wanted to be broadcast and work at KOMU, you could not have a job on the side. So they wouldn't let you because of scheduling and you had to be available to like do stories all the time. So advertising was a way for me to stay in J school and still be able to pay for college. Like I just went straight down the money route from the beginning. Like I had to be able to pay for this. And I was like, oh, marketing is kind of like, or advertising is kind of psychology. And I'm interested in that. That was my minor. I can still have a job and work. So here we are.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. So now you're into the business and you're focusing on small business owners. So Amanda, tell us a little bit, what do you think the most important part of branding is for a small business owner?
I think you have to zoom out. A lot of people hear brand and they automatically think logo, colors, like they think of all the pretty stuff. And so for a brand, you have to be able to zoom out and look at it from, 10,000 feet above. Like there's a lot more stuff that goes into brand than what your logo is. Like really that's a very, very minuscule part.
Yeah.
And so you have to look at like the experience that somebody has with you. What are your values? What is the type of clientele that you're going after? Like there's so many things that encompass what your brand actually is. And some of it you're probably building for better or worse without even knowing.
Absolutely. So when you zoom out a little bit, you're talking more like authentic voice and like your brand story and things like that, how you communicate all of that to your target market.
Yeah, your brand personality. What feelings do you want people to leave? Like whenever somebody thinks of your brand, what kind of feelings do you want to evoke? What do you want them to think of? And I think that's a lot more important than even the visual side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And it's a lot of what we teach within the playbook too, when you're trying to find your ideal client. Like, who is your ideal client? What do they look like? What do they do for a living? What, or how much money do they make? What do they do on the weekends? What do they like to do in their spare time? Like, you have to understand who you're talking to before you can even develop a voice for yourself. And that comes way before, some people like hop on Fiverr and ask someone to make them a logo for, a minute, and that person spends about 60 seconds of effort, and then that's the logo some people are using to get started.
Absolutely, which I get it. Everybody, you have to start out at some place. My husband started a food truck just a couple of years ago, and the two pieces of advice I told him is, one, I was like, if you don't absolutely want to do this and love doing this, if you're not obsessed, then you're going to fail, because you have to eat, sleep, breathe what it is that you do as a small business owner. But the other thing of advice that I told him is, like, you're not going to have all the answers just starting out. So, throw up that $100 template and that $50 logo, because you're going to just want to take every single event in person that comes your way, because that's a way of learning, like, oh, I don't like this, I do like this. It's the way of understanding like what more niche down path you want to take.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's important because sometimes people can be paralyzed. I actually love that you said that, even knowing what you do for a living, that you're okay with people at the beginning just throwing something up there to get started, because some people are just paralyzed by things not being perfect. And they can't get started because it's not perfect in their mind.
If you don't, you're going to throw so much money away. I cannot tell you how many times we've had clients come to us and they're like, I started a year or two ago, probably about 2 years ago. And they're like, I spent, $1,500 on this template and I hired a designer. And then I realized that, oh, I don't like working with this type of person. And it's kind of bringing in the right or the wrong clientele. And so they end up wasting a lot of money just because that's the way that business goes. Like, I can't imagine, having to spend that amount of money and then realizing, maybe even just 2 or 6 months down the road. I know with my husband, it's very early on and he was like, I actually don't like cooking this type of thing, or, whatever the case may be, that if you have to make changes, then you've dumped a lot of money and resources into essentially nothing.
Yeah.
So kind of on that same note, then, you pour so much of yourself into your brand and your story and how it is. And I understand, it's much different for a large business, but for small business owners, how do you separate your personal from your professional story or that voice while still being authentic to yourself, still, telling the story that you need to tell?
Yeah, I think, as just human beings, like I like to say we're like onions. Like there's so many different layers to us. But what I've learned is that you kind of have to pick and choose, how do you want to represent yourself? So what are some underlying themes that are relevant to you, but also once you understand your ideal client, that are kind of relevant or that will make them, kind of resonate with you, feel connected to you? And so what are some reoccurring themes? Like for mine, I love, and some of this is personal, some of this has nothing to do with business. So some of it's like, I love music. I am a emo pop punk like junkie.
He goes to every festival, every like, yes.
My husband and I joke, we're like, if we did not have kids, we would literally just travel around and go to concerts and festivals like all year long. Like that's what we would do. Also, I'm a Texan, and I'm one of those crazy, like very proud, like I have tattooed on my arm native Texan in my dad's handwriting. Like that's just a part of my identity. But then there's other stuff, like you were saying, I think before we hit well, actually, we might have been recording, but you're talking about like being known for strategy. Like that's something that we talk about within our brand. With a lot of creatives, they're just that. They're creatives. They don't have the strategy point of view. And so that's something that kind of differentiates ourselves, but it's also who I am. Like I love data and analytics, and like I'm not going to talk about something without bringing in, strategy points. And so those are common themes that you'll see throughout our brand, that some of them are personal to me, but some of them are how I run my business.
Yeah. And I think it's obvious, anyone who follows you, actually, I remember why I actually like clicked on you to make the appointment and send the email. You were the only person that talked about strategy, and you had that cute little pop-up video that came up on your website, and it's you. It's like, yes, I'm a designer. Yes, we have all these great resources. We can do all the stuff for you with your website and marketing. But here I am, Amanda, as a person. And, I think that's something we have to remember when couples are looking for us. I'm talking about wedding people now. They want to know who you are as a person. Nobody wants to spend a year of their life working with someone they don't like or don't understand. So you having that cute little pop-up video of like, hi, I'm Amanda, this is what I'm about. That is what sealed it for me. And I keep meaning to make that cute little video for my own site. It just hasn't happened yet.
That personal touch is so amazing to have. It's just something that people, they connect with immediately, or they don't connect with. Like it's something where it helps them make their decision on the spot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to help you bring more loyal people to you that aren't just booking you because, oh, you were the cheapest. Oh, my date was open, whatever the case may be. But it's like, oh, no, I want to work with you because of you. And I know, especially within the wedding industry, people are so competitive. Like, oh, I don't put rates on my website because I don't want people to know what I charge. But it's like, if you are banking on your personality, like nobody They can try, but nobody can replicate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So then kind of along those same themes, what do you see business owners do that are like the biggest mistakes that are recurring mistakes? Like what just keeps happening and it's just a common theme that you try and address?
I mean, along the same lines, we see a lot of people who are like, oh, well, luxury is black, white, minimal text. And there's like this certain like look that you have
Yeah.
to have. Or, luxury means you can't show your personality. It's like very buttoned up. And it's like, one, like you don't have to replicate what other people are doing. I see that so many times of like it's putting on somebody else's shoes and expecting that, that you're going to show up as them because you put on their shoes. We see that a lot within the wedding industry and I think that has to do with starting out. Whenever you're starting out, you are just kind of trying on other people's shoes. Like, oh, does this fit me? Does this look good on me? But after a while, you have to have your own lane. And so that's a really common mistake that I think we see people make is them trying to be somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we should clarify too. I realize we didn't overtly explain this. As a designer, you focus mostly on the wedding industry, right? I know you have a lot of photographers and like wedding adjacent people. How much of your business is wedding related?
I would say, I don't have an exact number. I would say probably over 90% of our business is wedding related, but kind of our sweet spot. So anybody that's not wedding related, we have like people who have a business, but they also have a personal brand wrapped in one.
Yeah.
So even like our lawyer clients, they have a law firm, but they are somewhat of a personal brand themselves. That's kind of like what our sweet spot is having both, because you attract the same of what you put out there. And I think that a lot of people see, oh, well, we have Carrylove Designs, the brand, but it's also myself and very personal as well at the same time.
Yeah, it's true. I think any service related business where you're going to work hand in hand with a human being for a period of time, it's so important to know who you're working with, like who it is. It can't just be, like you said, my date's available or you were the cheapest. Like that's not going to be a productive relationship.
Yeah.
So having been around so many wedding providers, like wedding service providers, what do you think? Like you see it all and you see it from behind the scenes. You see where people are and where they're trying to go and you help them make that change. What do you think wedding couples are looking for when they look for these services? Like what are like trends you're seeing or things that have changed maybe since COVID? I'm just curious to see how it's evolved over time.
Yeah, we are seeing a big change, especially with and people are probably going to roll their eyes with the change of like going from the prime wedding age millennials to now we're seeing Gen Z come up. Millennials were very much like the same, like, oh, be on Pinterest. I see that wedding. I want to recreate that wedding. Very much like doing the same thing over and over again. Now we're seeing this shift in like everything. They want it to be very me, like very different, very unique, not the same thing. Like, oh, you did that at your wedding. I don't want to do that at my wedding. Which I think as a wedding pro would be very exciting to like not having to recreate the same thing over and over and over again. But with that, we're seeing this more. They want personalization. They do want to feel connected. They want to know who they're working with. So we're seeing that a lot more is like, what's your personality like? What's important to you? What even like social issues are you getting behind? So we're seeing that a lot more within the wedding industry. There was a survey done by a company called Splendid Marketing. And this is for the luxury industry. So they spent between, I believe it was $100,000 to $500,000 on their wedding. And They surveyed 27,000 couples. And more important than portfolio, press features, there was something else too. There was like three things. So portfolio, press features, reviews. The number one thing that more than anybody else they said was important was personality. Personality was important when choosing their wedding vendor. I forget exactly what the percentage was, but it was well over like 60-70% said that personality was very, very important to them when choosing their wedding vendors.
That's super interesting.
And a big shift, especially for someone, I'm talking to travel people now. If you've been in business 10 years, 15 years, that's a very abrupt shift for maybe how you were raised to own your business. Because I think it used to be like, oh, you have this business, you have to be very professional, you have to keep your opinions to yourself, like you provide a service. And what you just said is like the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, yeah. I think within the next 3 years, like we're going to see you either change with the times, you change with the market, or your business is going to die out. Like I think that these are going to be the years that separate the good from the great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you just came from wedding MBA, which we were talking about before. We did talk about that before we recorded. I'm sure, was that something that you saw there? Was that talked about a lot there?
That was talked about, as well as value. Value was a word that I kept hearing come up over and over again, is like showcasing the value that you provide. Like people don't want to know you shoot with an Nikon and you have all these lenses and whatever like tools of your trade are. They don't care about that.
Mm-hmm.
They care about the value that you're providing. I'm blanking on his name. Alan. Oh my goodness. He is an author. He was there and he told a story about how he had, it might not have been him. Don't quote me on that. We saw so many speakers there. Now I'm like second guessing myself. I'm like, was that actually him? But that's besides
Alan Berg.
somebody.
I know
Yes.
his name was like right on the tip of my tongue. So that's why I had to look
Yes,
it up.
but don't quote me that it was him. One of the speakers, it was a really great story. He said that they had a wedding video from like the 1950s of his grandparents getting married.
Oh, wow.
And they have a 30-year-old son. And he showed the video to his 30-year-old son of his grandparents getting married. And he said that his 30-year-old like grown son broke down in tears watching his grandparents. I mean, you think about having a video in the 1950s of your grandparents getting married. He said that it made his 30-year-old grown son break down in tears and cry seeing them get married. And he was like, that's the stories that you want to tell. Like that's the value of what you are providing. And so I get chills even like thinking about him telling that story, because that is what people are going to want to buy, not your fancy camera equipment.
Mm-hmm. And think of what a video costs to do then. My God, they probably spent a fortune, but look at the longevity of it. I mean,
yeah, I mean, you're still showing it to people 60 years later and making, past or future generations cry from your marriage. Like that's crazy.
So I have some questions on like building your brand and authenticity. But before we get to that, just because we touched on it a little bit before we actually hit record, tell me a little bit about Wedding MBA. What is that event? What do you guys, why do you attend?
Yeah, so Wedding MBA is the largest wedding conference in the United States. This year, they were just shy of having 6,000 attendees there. It's wild seeing that many wedding pros in one room. And so it's a really great education for people who are probably like within the first, I would say 2 to 3 years of business. You go there, you can see like top industry professionals speak on a bunch of different topics. But beyond that, it's really great to connect with other people within the wedding industry. I was telling them, I was like, anybody who is anyone within the wedding industry is there. So any connections that you want to make, like that's the place to be.
Awesome. All right. I just wanted
oh no, go ahead. Finish your thought.
I just wanted to hear a little bit about it. That's it, see exactly what it was all about. It's
a good event. Well, what I was telling you before is that I went a few years ago. I think it's worth going to for travel people. Mm-hmm. I do think it's worth going to, maybe just once, because like Amanda said, it's kind of an early education, like in the early part of your business. Mm-hmm. But I think sometimes as travel people, and this is a soapbox of mine, this is a hill I will die on. I think we get too laser focused on our travel bubble. Like travel people are cliquey. And I mean that they're cliquey in the travel industry. Like we stay in our travel window. Well, what tour operator are you using, or what resorts are you booking with, or who has this venue? That's all great. You have to know that. That's like ticket to entry. But you should also, you owe it to yourself to look at everything else in the wedding, like like, I can't think of the word I'm trying to use, like the wedding landscape, because you have to think like your couple. If that couple is out there before they even get to which travel advisor do I want to work with, they are having the question of, do I even want to have a destination wedding?
Yep.
And so you need to see what your competition is in terms of, oh, this is what a wedding at home looks like. Like, this is what venues cost. This is what photographers cost, makeup artists, flowers, all the moving parts, all those people are there at Wedding MBA. So yeah, maybe it's not like the natural first conference you would go to as a travel agent, but if you're going to focus on weddings, it's an important one because that's who's talking to your couple. Like, those are the messages and the socials and everything else that they're seeing all the time. They have to ask that question of, do I even want to have a destination wedding? And if you're not educated on all those parts of a traditional wedding, how can you sell the benefits and the value, like Amanda said? Like, it's not just like, I have relationships with these resorts. I want you to know what it feels like when you look around the room in Mexico and all of your friends and family are there, and those people will never be in that room in Mexico again. Yeah. Like, that is, kind of the value that we're selling.
Absolutely.
It's awesome. Worth going to.
It's so yeah. I sidetracked us a little bit. I'm sorry about that. But this is something, so you touch on this a little bit in the beginning, and I want to elaborate on a little bit more. So someone comes to you, they want to start building their brand, or they want to be updating their brand, and you have this list of assets that you're going to be working on with them. How do you choose what to prioritize within the brand? Like, we said, yes, there's a logo, but the logo is a small part of it. So like, it's, you have all the ways that we communicate who we are as a small business. What is your strategy to that approach?
Yeah. Mario works for a creative agency, if you can't tell. He's like, what is my status sheet and what are my list of assets?
Yeah.
Talk about hills we will die on. This is a hill that I will die on. What a lot of creatives do is they focus on, rebrands with like logos or website design. And one of the ways that our services is set apart from others is we take a holistic approach, because you really cannot change a logo without understanding 5 steps ahead. Yeah. And so the way that I like to help people visualize it is, if you think of your brand as a whole bunch of gears. So they're all, from your logo as a gear, your brand personality is a gear, your brand experience is a gear. I mean, you can even get more into the into the weeds than that, more detailed than that. But if you think about each of those parts as a gear, if you zoom in, and let's just say that you want to work on your logo, and you're like, oh, I need a new logo, and you get hyper focused on that and you fine tune this gear, that's going to put out of whack all these other gears. And so we have a 4-phase process that we send our clients through, starting out with brand strategy. So your brand strategy is like your unique value proposition, like what makes you different from others? What are your competitors doing? What are we doing differently than your competitors? Like, how do you fit in that landscape? What's your brand personality? So we start out with that brand strategy, because that's going to lead the brand design. So in phase 2, we do the brand design, because you have to have all these other components before you know, like, what's my color palette? Mm-hmm. Depending on your personality. If your personality is bold and energizing and creative, and then I stick you with a black, white, and beige color palette, like, the two don't really mix. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that kind of leads the way for the brand design. Then, of course, we get into phase 3, which is the website design. And then phase 4 is marketing. And so those are kind of the steps that you have to take, because I can't work on a website design if I don't know I need to write copy. Well, what kind of brand voice am I writing the copy in? Once again, are you showing up as really bold and authoritative and confident? Or are we writing that copy in more of like a romantic, different type of sweet style? Like, there are some things that Ashley with Alpaca Your Bags can get away with saying because of her brand personality that others couldn't. Like, that's why there are some brands where you could see them drop a 4-letter word within their marketing and be like, oh, that's, that brand. But then if like Tiffany and Co. came and they dropped the 4-letter word in their marketing, you'd be like, like, what?
Yeah. Clutch your pearls.
Yeah. Clutch your... And so hopefully that answered your question.
Absolutely, it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good process. And so this is a follow-up question to that, but it's complicated because it's really 2 questions. When you are just getting started, How do you figure those things out? How do you know who you are? I can hear people asking this, but I don't know who I am. I just need to make money. I just need to replace my salary for my other job. So what is that balance of like taking everyone that walks in the door and figuring out what your voice is?
I don't think that both can happen at one time. Like fair. You can't take everybody and like hone in on your voice at one time. I think that you have to sit down and kind of take inventory. And something that we lead our clients through, or I guess before their clients, one exercise that we have people do is take 3 of your past clients, any clients at all, just like the top 3 names that come to mind. Create for each one, create a T-chart. So on one side, you're basically creating like a pros and cons. So on one side, you have like pros and the other cons, and you look at the experience as a whole and you think, what did I not like about the experience of working with them? Did I not like how opinionated they were? They didn't trust me. They second guessed everything that I was saying. What are some things that you did like working with them? Oh, I like the resort that they were at. I like that all of their family got what I needed on time. Like they were very communicative. And I think that can start to help you, like, one, understand who's your ideal client. What are we seeing that they all have in common? I think we had a conversation within yours at one point, Ashley, where you were like, actually, I think I seem to attract a lot of, I think it was healthcare professionals. You're like, I have a lot of nurses and stuff that I work with. So how can you, knowing that, start to talk to them in your marketing and be like, hey, I know that you're busy taking care of everybody else. You are the helper. Like you are the nurturer. Like, let us come in and help you so that you can help others. You can't handle your odd working hours, your 24-hour shifts, and try planning a wedding. Like, help us, get everything. So you can start to see how, if you understand your ideal client, you are not just talking to everybody and anybody. You can start to hone in on the messages and the pain points that they have.
I think there's a lot of power in saying no to people, but you can't say no until you've done it all, right? Like you don't know what you're saying no to until you have worked with some of these, specific situations or people or resorts or whatever it is. You have to know what you like and what you don't like. And so at the beginning, when you're starting out, don't discount the value of taking everybody that walks in the door, because it's all a learning experience. Like you're learning all the time.
A prime example of this is whenever I was first starting out, I took on product-based businesses, and like we had a homemade like soap maker, and I will never do product-based businesses because of inventory. I don't want to set up product descriptions and manage inventory and set up all the back end. There are people who love doing product-based businesses. That will never be me. If I get on a call and you're like, I have a shop, I'm like, great, I will send you to somebody else because we will not work with shops.
And the nice thing is once you are able to evolve your travel business a little further, you do get to that point where you can identify really quickly who you should be working with and who you shouldn't be working with. I've had a number of couples where we get on that complimentary consultation and we have an amazing time talking, and personality wise we fit, but their end product, what they're looking for, is not the right fit. And there's some power and some strength in being able to say, hey, this was fantastic time. I really appreciate you jumping on with me. Also, I don't think I'm the right fit. Let me refer you to someone who might be able to help you a little better.
Or I'm like the opposite of that. Depending on where you are with your business, at least like recognize, like, okay, this is not my ideal, but I need to learn more about these lower budget resorts, or I need to learn more about how to work with. So like just labeling it, like I'm going to do this, even though it's not ideal, but I need the learning experience, or I need the reviews, or I need the photo, like just calling it what it is. Like maybe it's not your right fit, but you're going to take something from it. And that'll help you along the way when you have those times where you're just so frustrated because it's not a perfect match, but you're like, okay, this is why I'm doing this, and this is what I'm taking from it. So I said it was complicated. Here's the follow-up. What if I am a person who just does not like being present online or in social or in front? Like, what if I'm a shy person, or what if I'm just not comfortable with myself? Like, is it even possible to have a service-based business if your face isn't on it? How do people like that reconcile that?
I do think that there is somebody for everyone.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do think that it will be harder to grow your business in 2024 and beyond without having a face to the business. I mean, we're seeing that even with big brands like The Knot and Zola. They have rebranded within the past year or so, and they are taking on like this more personality approach to their marketing. I mean, if you showed up to Threads earlier this year and you saw The Knot on Threads, they were unhinged on Threads.
Like what? I'm just curious.
Let me go back and see if I can find, like, they're just saying like it's just very different marketing.
They're just having a personality.
Yeah, they're just having a personality. They're just like, they read the room and they understood how to show up on Threads. So let's see. So even like this one, it's, you know, that picture of Doug from King and Queens where he's like making that face. This is from The Knot. They're like, how the groomsmen stand around after taking 4.5 minutes to get ready. Like, just funny stuff like they're resharing this photo over and over again with different stuff. Like me, whenever I say the word fiance, like they're just showing up as like, I know that The Knot is not a real person, like one person, but the way that they show up on Threads, I'm like, oh, this is like my friend. Like, this is me and my friend sending funny stuff back and forth to one another.
See, gotta be there. But it's hard. I've gotten that question from people even within our playbook group of like, I just don't like social, or I just don't like, I don't like the way I look right now. I just don't feel comfortable. I don't want my picture all over my website. And it's tough because I agree with you. There is someone for everyone. And maybe you can play that up as like, oh, I'm the introverted wedding planner or something. But at the same time, you are in a service business and you do have to attract people to you. And that's hard if they don't know who you are. It's really hard.
But that doesn't mean that you have to put your face all over your website and show up on all these dancing reels. And like, if that's not you, that's not you. Like, there are people that if I saw, let me think, some like Megan Ely, she's a speaker within the wedding industry. You see her, she is always in all black. Like, that is her signature, like all black outfits. If I saw her on social media, like showing up like in a colorful outfit, dancing all around, like that doesn't fit her personality. I think whatever it is that you are, own it. Like, if you are that introverted, weird, like nerdy person that goes and plays like World of Warcraft in your basement, like, then like, that's cool. Be you. I think that's definitely something with Gen Z that we're seeing, that like, it be your unapologetically authentic self. Like, people are going to resonate with that.
Absolutely.
I'm smiling because I'm thinking, okay, this is going to get a little pointed, but travel advisors may perhaps skew a little older in some parts of the industry, and may perhaps skew a little more female, and may perhaps skew towards a generation that isn't as comfortable with what you just said. I'm trying to be very delicate about this. I can't tell you when someone says, well, I want to build my business. Oh, but I don't understand technology. Or I want to build my business, but I just don't get what everyone's doing. Like, you're going to have to get with it. To your point, Amanda, it's 2024. Like, to grow a business in 2024, this is what's required. This is it.
And two thoughts to that. So we worked with a wedding planner in the past. She is, I mean, I don't, if I had to put an age on her, 50s, 60s, like she has kids my age. We branded her as like, I am the wedding planner that's going to get along with your mother. Like, like I am the wedding planner that your mother is going to love. And so she took something that she can't change about herself and used it to her advantage and put it into her brand. And so she's just owning her unapologetically authentic self.
Yeah.
But also at the same thing, if you're not good at something and you know you're not good at something, or you don't want to do something, hire an expert. Like, if you don't like social media, you don't want to be on there, hire somebody. Like, don't let that, to me, that sounds like an excuse. Like, find a way. You know, you're a business owner. We are, at the end of the day, we are problem solvers for ourselves and for our clients. If you don't find a way, like,
So I'm going to jump in there because there was something that was popping into my head a little bit as we were all discussing this. It's, I think, one of the most important things that someone can do as a small business owner to further their business, as you know, as their brand is growing, right, would be to engage with a professional like this, because you might not be able to wrap your head just around what your personal brand is. And when you have a professional that does this day in and day out, and their sole focus is identifying the brand and bringing it to life, that's going to help you. Like, you're not just talking about the website, you're talking about your full story, and you can help narrate that through your, you know, through your socials, things like that, when you have a clear understanding of who you are, and being able to map that out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I cannot tell you how many, even for myself. So we went through a rebrand for Carrylove Designs in early 2021, and I hired a designer to help us. Like I hired out my dream team. I was like, I'm hiring this copywriter, I'm hiring this designer. Like I did very minimal in our own rebrand, because you are so thick within it that, what's the saying? You can't see the forest from the trees. And so I 100% believe with us, we have all of our clients. The first thing is that you fill out, and Ashley can test us, a very long questionnaire.
Yes.
In
side time for anyone who does it, because but it's good. It makes you think. Like
yeah, but we can also see themes, like reoccurring themes that are being played out in this questionnaire, that you probably don't realize it whenever you're writing, you know, these things out. But us going through it, we're like, oh, I see this again. Oh, I see this again. Oh, you answered this question, but what you're really saying is this, and that applies to that. Like that, you can't do it for yourself, really. Yeah. Once you get to a certain point, like you can only take yourself so far, and then you have to hire professionals,
which costs money. But that is exactly what we tell wedding couples. You don't know what you're doing. You're too close to it. I do know what I'm doing. I'm worth it. So this is what you should pay me. It's the same with someone who's going to help you with a branding, you know, a branding project or a website redesign. You get what you pay for, and the quality of what you get for that experience is very different. Like, I don't think it's the time that you want to spend like $1.99 on a website. Like, you're presenting this is your storefront. This is your brick and mortar. Like, this is who you are. And that's an investment, and it should be.
But with the word investment, I think a lot of times we throw out the word investment, like, oh, this is an investment. But what investment really means is that you are investing money and you're going to get something else out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Rebranding or branding pays dividends on the back end, because it doesn't just last you for one wedding season. Like most of our clients don't rebrand for, depending on how fast their business is growing and just like evolving, most of our clients don't rebrand for low end 3 years, high end 5+ years. So it's something that you are going to continue to see pay itself back in the back end. It's a trust fall, really.
That's a good way to think about it. So speaking of rebranding, and I'm real time, Mario, we can take this out if you don't want to answer it. Like, I'm putting a line here to talk about, and we can edit this part out now. If you have a life situation change, or if you do have something happens that is, maybe it's not even that, maybe you just want to take your business in a totally different direction. As a professional, what do you think the right steps are for a rebrand? Because you can't just like abruptly turn off and turn on one day. There probably has to be some kind of transition. So how have you helped people with that? And what do you think what's important about that type of transition?
Yeah, the biggest transition that we typically see is like moving locations or wanting to open up new markets. So if they're really successful in like the Austin market, and then they want to go to Dallas and open up in that market. I tell people that we don't rebrand for your business today. We rebrand for your business 5 years from now. It's just like whenever I go and I buy shoes for my son, he's 2.5 years old. I'm not buying him shoes that fit his foot perfectly, because that shoe is going to last 2 weeks and then I'm throwing it out. Like, I'm buying shoes that have a wiggle room that he can grow into. And I think that's the same with rebranding, is like, don't approach the rebrand for now. Think about, where do you want your business to be in 3-5 years? And what steps can you take today that will help you to get there tomorrow?
Yep, absolutely. That makes sense. I like the approach of really future focusing it, and making sure that, you know, who you are today should not be who your business is going to be in 3 years, 5 years, so on. And so for you to be able to take the steps to map that out, to really identify where you want to go to, that's going to help tell that entire story.
Yeah. And I don't know, I've only heard this from our church. The pastor uses the word future casting. I don't know if that's like a well-known word or if that's like a made-up one.
I like it.
But I like the word future casting. It's like, what do you see in the future, and how are you going to take the steps to get there? Because you don't want to invest a lot of money and then, a year down the road, you're like, oh, well, I've changed directions. I don't want to be planning weddings in the Caribbean. I want to be a Disney focused. Like something like that. You really have to know those answers.
No disrespect to Disney people. It's just not me. There is a business for that, and a very thriving one, but it would be a big change for someone to say, I don't want to do weddings anymore and go to Disney. I'm glad we have Disney people, because that means I don't have to do it.
There's someone for everyone.
For those of you that are listening to this and not watching this, you would have needed to see me and Ashley's face both at the same time.
I've gotten, after the first 2 episodes, I've had people reach out. They're like, you need to work on your face. And I'm like, what's happening? This is my face. So there is something to be said for watching it versus listening. You do get a whole different layer of experience.
This is the podcast for filters. That's,
Whenever I was walking down the booths at Wedding MBA, I was reading my email, and I read something that a client had said, and I like made this face like, oh, like really? And I didn't realize that I made that face. And the lady at the booth, she was like, oh, she's like, you look like you're over it. Like, you look like you're already done for today. And I was like, oh, like, I didn't realize that I had actually made a facial expression. I was like, nope, just dealing with client stuff.
Yep.
All good.
I think I mentioned this actually in our last episode, but the president of my last agency that I was with would always go around the room and be like, okay, now what does everyone think? We already know what Mario thinks. That's just because it was on my face, but what does everyone else think?
That's amazing.
No poker face.
No poker face at all. No. Okay, so then I think, unless you guys have anything else you want to run through, I think we're ready for lightning round, which is
this is my favorite part. And with Amanda specifically, I was really looking forward to this, because things that we didn't get to talk about in our time together. So this is good.
Here we go. Sharing time, maybe oversharing time. I probably should have prefaced this too at the very beginning. I don't know if y'all can hear roosters. Can you hear them crowing in the background?
No. I definitely would have said something.
Okay. I thought for sure. We live in the historical district, and they're known for having like wild chickens and roosters.
Oh, like Key West.
Yeah. So anyways, we have roosters, and sometimes people are like, do you live on a farm? Like, where are you? I'm like, no, like there's just roosters 5 feet away from my window. But
so we've had dogs bark in almost every episode so far. I don't know why he's being so quiet right now, because he was super vocal when Mario and I were talking before.
He listened to you.
And that's probably what it is. Yeah. And now we have roosters. So we'll just keep adding to this menagerie as we go.
Awesome. All right. I will kick us off. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Oh, crap. I don't think I planned for that one. Did I overlook that one? Okay. If I could live anywhere, like Texas, I told y'all in the beginning, like I'm not moving. I married a guy from Georgia. And he already knew before marrying me, like he was moving to Texas, and that's like where his grave will be. Like,
I mean, you have a tattoo. Married. That's pretty committed.
Yeah.
It's good that the precedent was sent early on.
Yes, it was. No surprise.
Oh, is it me now? Okay, sorry. What's your favorite swear word or your favorite curse word? Depending on where you live, we all say it differently.
Shit is probably mine. Like I will say it's something, I'll be like, shit. And so kids listen to everything. So my son is something, he'll be like, shit. And I'm like, no.
That's another one that can be used for anything.
Yeah.
So kind of along the same lines, and I think answers have been pretty consistent so far in the first 3 episodes, but what is your least favorite word then?
Like, oh, this is one I want a clarification on. Are we talking least favorite cuss word? Are we talking least favorite word?
Any word.
Any word.
I should have had an answer for this one already. I really don't. Nothing came to mind on that one. It has to be in the moment. There's not a word that I can think of right away, but I kind of along the same line, since I'm not going to give you a word, I will tell you, I cannot stand hearing people chew.
Oh, that's a good one. Word or noise. We should change it to word or noise.
Yeah. Yeah.
I cannot, if I can hear you chew, like it makes me so angry to hear you chew. I don't know why. There's like a response and I'm like, stop. Like I don't know.
I am that person. I was blessed with my father's jowls, and yeah. And when I chew, it's everyone. I can see everyone at the table looking at me. I'm like, I can't do anything about it. I'm sorry.
Jowls? That's a word that makes you sound like Abraham Lincoln or something like that. That is a weird word choice. Speaking of words,
it is what it is. There, it's there. It always is. It's
you do not have jowls.
Oh, Ashley, you want the next one?
Sure. Okay. What's your love language? Some people aren't familiar with the book. I have a feeling you may be, but if you're not, just what do you like?
Mine is quality time.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So, and that could just mean like my husband, he will never turn the TV on. Like if it were not for me, I was just gone for a couple days for wedding MBA. He did not watch any TV, which makes like, I don't get it. I'm like, what do you do at night? But I make him watch TV with me. That's like our quality time is like sit down and let's watch another episode of Suits.
Oh, I love it. Do you turn on the TV in your hotel room when you travel?
Yes.
See, I never do. This was in my stories the other day. I never even think to turn the TV on.
The TV's on 24/7. Like, well, okay, not whenever I sleep. I can't sleep with the TV on. I sleep with a noisemaker, like I'll have the rain or something going on. But yeah, the TV's on even whenever I'm not in the room.
I think it has to do with how often, as an advisor that we travel, but when I get into a hotel room, it actually annoys me if the TV is on and they have some sound going on or some video going on in the background. I'm like, turn it off. Please just turn it off.
Like the Secrets elephant video.
I think for me too is whenever I travel, if I'm alone, I'm used to coming home and like we have a loud, noisy house. And so to me, it's weird walking into a very quiet room.
See, I love it. Maybe it's just from like being on this side of things and all we do is help other people all the time and answering, emails and texts and DMs and everything else. Silence is like my love language to myself.
Okay, so then it might be the same thing. What turns you off?
Besides chewing.
Oh man, what turns me off? I feel like I should have been better prepared for these. I feel like
Just say what the first thing is that you think of.
What turns me off? Somebody being very loud and opinionated. I guess because I'm a natural like peacekeeper it's funny though, because I married somebody who's very loud and opinionated, but the rest of my family, we are all like peacekeepers, like very go with the flow, easygoing. And sometimes I'm like, why can't you just not have an opinion about something and just go with the flow?
So that actually sidetrack question. What's your sign?
I'm a Virgo.
Me too. It's interesting that as soon as you said that, I'm like, she's a Virgo. That's
we never brought that into that's fun to talk about.
We're gonna have to add that in. Yeah.
Or Enneagrams. That's the other one that people are into figuring out right now. That would be a good one. What are you, a 4?
I'm a 3.
Oh, 3.
No surprise there.
No, that makes sense. Did we do that as part of your onboarding? The Enneagram thing? No, we didn't. It must have, I think it was something else. But that would be interesting with clients too. I mean, on like an intake form, if they know, or if they don't know or they don't care, then that tells you something too. But that would be interesting.
I've never heard of this.
My husband is a 1.
Okay.
If you know anything about 1, that is like they are black and white. Like which goes along with the being opinionated. But my daughter is an 8, which is the challenger. So he is very much like rules. Everything's black and white. And she's like, what rules? Like, so it's interesting to see their relationship because they are total opposites.
Oh, that's going to be fun in a few years.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm the peacekeeper, so
There you go. Okay, so this one is specifically for you. What is your favorite font?
right now I have really been I like something classic, like Sweet Sands from Adobe is always my favorite right now because I like the way it looks in all caps. It's in our branding, but something like Helvetica, something like very classic.
Mm-hmm. I feel
Nice.
like that's a personality test in itself.
I feel like any creatives that are listening to this are it like that's gonna be like our most controversial topic on this entire on this entire episode. Okay. This one's an easy one. Cats or dogs?
Or roosters.
Or roosters.
Or roosters.
Yeah.
So me personally, dogs, but I live in a house divided. My husband has a cat, my daughter has a cat, and then I have a dog. So, but me personally, dogs.
I like
What
how they're
kind of
assigned to each person.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My husband has Woodrow is his, and this cat like follows him around, will sit on his chest. Like this cat's obsessed with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then my daughter has Haley. Her cat sleeps on her face.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a boxer Shar-Pei mix. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yes, a boxer is what they're called.
Boxer shark.
Boxer
Is
shark.
it big like a boxer, but does it have any of the wrinkles?
Yeah, so her dad was a boxer. She's about the same, I'd say same size as a boxer, but then she does have like loose skin, so she has some of the wrinkles.
Oh,
My God.
I
I think we need to follow this up with pictures. Is what's That's it.
all the dogs.
She was mad
Yeah.
because I locked her out of the room. She was looking through the door like,
Oh.
Oh.
Well,
I'm
Jack is
running.
now laying across my feet, so he's just here laying across my feet, wondering when he can bark again. So. Cocktail of choice.
I'm a rum and coke. Easy.
Yeah,
Coconut rum if you have it. I love a coconut rum.
Easy but delicious. That's a good
Yeah,
one.
it's a classic. Put some lime in there. It's perfect.
What's the biggest travel mistake you've made for yourself?
Okay, so I was telling y'all before, I don't really, knock on wood, I have not made like a really huge travel mistake. So there's two that come to mind. One is I always book that really, really early flight, and then I regret it the morning of whenever I have to wake up at like 2 a.m. and I'm like, why did I do this to myself? But the other big mistake is last Christmas.
I wondered if you were going to talk about this.
We booked a trip to Colorado and we drove there. And my mom's from Michigan. So she told us before we left, she was like, you don't have snow tires. So she was like, be careful. And I was like, yeah, like whatever, mom, you're my mom. Like you're always going to be very safe or cautious.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, an unexpected snowstorm hit while we were there. Like none of the locals, nobody knew. And we had this really big hill that we had to get up.
Oh no.
We ended up getting stranded on the interstate for
Like hours.
from like 4 p.m. and we had to wait for the road authority to come and push our car up this hill. We were not the only ones. Like at one point, my husband tried to go. We ended up hitting our back bumper into the side. And then I'm watching all of these 18-wheelers like come right by our car. It was quite the experience, but we ended up getting stuck on the interstate from 4 p.m. until at least midnight. I don't think we got to our destination until like 1, 2 a.m. And it was like a 30-minute drive.
Yeah. And your stories were like, we're still here. Like, been here all night. That's crazy.
Yeah. And it was with our kids. Like we had our 7-year-old and our 2-year-old in the car with us, and they were troopers. Well, our daughter is like, please, we're not going. Every single time I'm like, we're going on a trip, she's like, not Colorado. Like she is scarred for life. But yeah, that's the biggest mistake is going and driving and not having snow tires.
That gives me so much anxiety just hearing that story. Oh, that's a
yeah. Message me on Instagram. I probably still have the videos to show you of like my husband was making fun of us during the car. He was like, because we wanted to see snow while we were there. So we were like, oh, we want to see snow. And so my husband, he's recording and he's like, y'all wanted to see snow, huh? Y'all wanted to see snow while we're stuck on the side of the road. He's like, here it is. Here's your snow, guys.
That's with Mario being from Wisconsin, but now living in Florida. I'm sure you're very grateful for that right now.
That's it. You know what? I'm one of those, like, it has turned into a weird thing for me where, like, when I somehow find myself on YouTube watching random videos, one of my favorite things is watching people slide in the snow. I don't know why. I don't know why, but I love watching the video because I'm like, I am so glad I don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's so random.
Apparently they did not know that this storm was coming, so they didn't like salt, or they didn't prepare the roads that they should have. So we were not the only ones. They ended up having to like shut down that hill because like people could not get up this hill. It was, you could see traffic backed up for like miles behind us. It was a pretty crazy event.
Oh, scary.
Wow. All right. That was a good one.
We're not going anywhere for Thanksgiving for the first time in a long time. So we're going to be home. And now I'm very happy with that decision.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to stay at home and be very safe and contained and not worry about driving anywhere.
I'm going to Wisconsin all December, and now I'm terrified. Thank you.
Good.
Don't
All
drive
right.
your Florida car up there.
Right. No,
my advice.
Don't drive there anyway. Like, that would be a horrible drive.
Yeah, no,
Oh
thank you.
All right, last one.
All right, last one. What is on your bucket list?
So growing up, my dad always talked about going to the Grand Canyon. And so my bucket list, especially for this next year, is I want to save up enough money to take all of like my immediate family, so that we can all do the Grand Canyon together. And like my dad and I talk about walking out on the bridge, like where you can see straight down. Me and my dad want to do it. My husband and my mom are like, absolutely no way. And so that is on my bucket list because I grew up in talking about going to the Grand Canyon with my parents and never have.
I've never been either, weirdly. Like, I've been around there so many times and I've flown over it, but that's on my list also.
Yes.
Amazing. That's awesome.
Weren't you last year, you were going to rent out your house and like RV for the summer or RV for the year? That would be a good way to do that.
Yeah, we were. We could not find a renter, which thankfully we couldn't, because we ended up, so we wanted to rent our house for a specific amount of money, but we ended up getting our local taxes back, which ended up raising what we pay on our mortgage, like significantly.
No.
So if we would have rented out our house, I would have been so pissed because we would have been paying like more on top. We wouldn't have not even been breaking even. Like we would have been losing money every single month for a renter to stay in our house.
Oh, it all worked out then.
Yes, it did. But eventually we will do it. We want to be one of those crazy families and at least go and RV for a couple months.
I think it'd be fun.
Awesome. Good. Well, Amanda, you survived the lightning round. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's, just kind of, as our listeners go through and they hear about, everything that you spoke about today and something really resonated with them, where can they find you? How can they talk to you?
Yeah, so you can go to carrylovedesigns.com, check out the website. If you go to carrylovedesigns.com/resources, there's a whole bunch of different like fun free resources that you can get depending on what it is that you're struggling with. So if like you're thinking about rebranding but don't really know if it's the right time, we have a guide there to kind of help you understand if you want to rebrand. We have like if you want to create a signature experience of your own, and really create like a signature offering, we have a free guide there as well. And then I'm always down to connect on Instagram. So send me a DM. I am known to do voice memos and video memos back. So definitely
confirm.
There.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you jumping in and joining us. There's a lot of info here that I think is going to help a lot of small business owners and really give them a little bit direction on where their brand is going and how they should be approaching it. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Running a travel business may have its challenges, but with a dash of humor, the right tools, an amazing community, and a lot of wine, success awaits us all. Raise a glass with us and toast to your remarkable journey.
Don't forget, if you're ready to take the next step in your travel career, one where you can focus on developing your niche, attracting leads, converting them into new clients, and automating your systems, you can build the business of your dreams. If you're ready, join us in the Playbook Inner Circle at jointheplaybook.com. We can't wait to see you inside.